Brian Scalabrine, Celtics analyst for NBC Sports Boston and co-host of the starting lineup on Sirius XM, won a championship back in '08 with the Celtics. What were you expecting last night in Game 1?
I mean, I probably was expecting what we saw, like a lot of energy by the Celtics. I don't think that they haven't been bothered by the long days off. They did a great job against Miami Game 1, great job against Cleveland Game 1. I thought they struggled against Indiana, found a way to win, but I think more than anything, the Celtics, not their top four defenders, take Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum out of the mix. Horford, Porzingis, and Sam Hauser did a really good job in isolation situations, and I think that was a big difference maker in that game.
I think they're a great team, but it's dangerous when you say somebody's a great team and they don't win a title. They've been a great team. Well, can you say that? Somebody's a great team and they don't win a title?
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors were a great team that lost to the Cavs. I mean, those are circumstantial. So, yeah, you could be a great team, but not an all-time great team. You're right about that. And I'm not saying the Celtic team is an all-time great team, but it just looks on paper like the discrepancy between like their roster and the next best roster is a massive gap. Like you could argue the Denver Nuggets. I heard you just talking about those odds. I like the Denver Nuggets, but it seems like if you want to win today, defensive versatility, rebounding across the board, and shooting from 6 or 7 guys, it's really tough to stop in the NBA.
Yeah, and this is a great offense. I mean, historically, a great offense this season here. Who's the best player on the team?
Jason Tatum. He received, and you don't have to ask us, Dan, or yourself. No one can have an opinion. Just ask coaches that are preparing.
Yeah.
Teams are still gearing up to stop Tatum, putting their best defender on Tatum and putting like the rim protector sort of spying what Tatum is going to do. Tatum's done a good job of getting off the ball. So, you remember the Golden State Warrior. I don't know if you talked about it or made big news. They literally did not guard Jaylen Brown to start the game, just let him shoot. Pretty disrespectful for a guy like Jaylen Brown, but teams are still geared up to stop Jason Tatum. Does that switch in the future? It hasn't switched so far. I've only seen it happen, Dan, twice all year where the best defender and the team started keying in on Jaylen Brown and he was having a monster game.
That's a great opinion because I'm looking at it feels like that Jaylen Brown is moving up. Like the confidence level of Jaylen Brown, I can see that. It's almost tangible when you're watching him out there.
Yeah, and Dan, just like being involved in all those shoot-arounds, it's amazing how much you focus on the main player. It's amazing how much energy you put. You talk about their sets, talk about their actions, what they do when they have the ball here, what do they do when they're getting right, going to the right, going to their left. And then there's also and don't forget this guy, like when you play the Miami Heat with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh, it was LeBron 90%. And then watch D-Wade when he, takes the ball and rips it baseline. You got to make sure you're squeezing that baseline. Watch Bosh on this isolation. Now let's go back to talk about LeBron, right? So your whole defenses are there to stop the best player. And that's just my experience of going through, all the scouting reports and all the times of gearing up against teams. We clearly, as a team, always knew where we wanted to put our energy and emphasis.
How would you guard Doncic?
I like what they did. I really do. I thought they did a good job. Here's how I would not guard them. It's all about staying connected, Dan. If Luka does something and he gets some separation, you're screwed because what's going to happen is the big's going to get a better angle. Luka's going to put you on his hip, and then he's going to drive you and get to where he wants to go. But I thought Holiday and Brown did a really good job of staying connected during those pick and rolls. And if Luka does not have space, I mean, you see the step back to the right, to the left, the step back pump fake to the step throughs. Like all those things are all based off when he gets separation. You got to do the best job you can of staying connected. But the fact that I'm not going to help off on a bunch of people and let Luka beat you with the pass, that seems to be the Celtic game plan, and they executed that pretty well in game 1.
Yeah, I know he's going to get 30. I don't want him to get 10 or 12 or 14 assists because if he gets that, then we're in trouble. And he had 1 assist last night. We're talking to Brian Scalabrine, the Celtics analyst for NBC Sports Boston. You want in on the Dan Hurley bet? Does he stay? Does he go?
I mean, like my understanding of the NBA and Danny Hurley, which is not, I don't know Danny at all. I just know his father from back when I played with the Nets. I used to go to the St. Anthony games. It doesn't seem like he would want that job. If you're Danny Hurley, can't you get any job in the world? The Lakers job doesn't seem like a great job, but it is LA. It is LeBron James. I guess you would go for that. But if Danny Hurley wanted to throw his hat in the ring, why didn't he do it earlier? Why are you waiting until now when they're on like the last hour about to hire JJ Redick and all of a sudden Dan Hurley comes in? I will say this.
Okay, but let's say Boston was open, hypothetically.
There's a lot of, I mean, I'm not going to, you know what? I don't want to do that because I don't want to like pin another coach and saying that this guy's going to get fired, right? Or anybody out there.
No. But him taking a job, the specialness of the Lakers job and the Celtics job, and I guess you could include the Knicks. There aren't a lot of jobs in the NBA.
Does Darvin Ham feel that way? Like, does he think it was special? Frank Vogel won a championship. Does he feel like it was?
When he got hired, he thought it was special, not when he got fired.
Man, I'm all about the historic players and the franchise and all that stuff, Dan. I want a good roster with some draft picks where they're not talking about drafting Bronny. I don't want to do. I wouldn't want to deal with Danny Hurley. Danny Hurley, he wants to deal with that. Like I said this 2 years ago. It's amazing. It's like they got to have JJ Redick. You got to be on JJ Redick's podcast for people to know he's a good coach. Just watch him coach. 2 years ago, he's calling out actions, secondary action, and his team is going through it with aggression and yet checking off going to second, third, fourth, fifth option. That is insane. I said it 2 years ago, and yet it only happens when he's on a podcast. Like this guy's like, I don't understand how the NBA things work. Like if Danny Hurley is your guy, why was he not your guy 4 months ago, 3 months ago? Why is it just now that he's your guy? It makes no sense to me, Dan.
Plus, JJ Redick has Danny Hurley on his podcast and then asking questions about what Hurley runs at Connecticut. And then the Laker brass and LeBron hear the podcast, and then they realize JJ's not the guy. Dan Hurley is the guy. Like Redick did himself a disservice. He took himself probably out of the running here. Because he had Hurley on.
So billion-dollar organizations are making decisions based off of podcasts?
Okay, would you rather have Redick or Hurley?
Hurley all day.
Okay.
I might take Hurley over 20 NBA coaches. The guy's nasty as a coach. Elite at what he does. I just don't understand how it works, Dan. That's it.
Oh, so you would stay, if you're Hurley, you'd stay at Connecticut instead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, give me another one. I go try to win another championship. And then just inform everybody that you're interested in going to the NBA. Then really good teams that are looking to get over that hump would hire you at that point. Don't do it like this. This is like it's like a rash judgment. Don't take he can do whatever he wants. It's Danny Hurley. He's the man. But
was Redick asked about the Lakers job last night by any members of the media?
I don't think so. I think that's like, I even saw JJ. I'm not going to ask him about that. I feel like that's
no, but I mean
subject.
Publicly. Like, did anybody say, "Hey, I want to interview Redick and ask him about this"?
No, I mean you hear that thing where Shams has tweeted out that they're targeting or they're zeroing in, and then JJ Redick basically said like that's not actually true. So I don't know what's going on with the whole search, but I think like JJ Redick, that's a good job for JJ Redick. He's just starting out. It's high profile. Like, fine, you'll get to coach LeBron. You'll probably have some success. You don't know. Even going to the second round might be a good year for you. I just think that's beneath Danny Hurley.
Yeah, I wondered if this was a leverage play with Danny Hurley.
Me too.
Hey, I'm going to listen to you, and then all of a sudden, now I'm flying out to meet with you. And now Jeff Goodman, college basketball reporter, says UConn is preparing a big contract offer to Danny Hurley. I think he thought he was going to get taken care of earlier at Connecticut. Maybe that's where you start flirting with somebody, and all of a sudden you're flirting and you go, well, wait a minute here. And then you start to, do that job search in your mind like, hon, would you like to live in Los Angeles? What schools and money? Where could we live? What's the, all of those things. Now you get in a little deeper and you're like, I don't know. So I don't know. If he doesn't come back with a contract from L.A., then I wonder if he's going to take that job.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but it doesn't mean like, Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point, right? You don't want to do something and then you listen, and then you don't really want to do it. And next thing you know, you're like picking out a house and deciding if you need to live in Manhattan Beach or like on the water in Malibu. So, you never know when the tipping point happens. But if I was Danny Hurley, like I don't know Danny Hurley that well, but if I was Danny Hurley, go back to UConn and then let everybody know that you are interested in going to the NBA, because there are some really, really good jobs out there. And I think that some presidents, owners, GMs would bend over backwards to get Danny Hurley, and he might be able to pick his job.
Good to talk to you, Brian. Thanks for joining us as always.
You got it, Dan.
That's Brian Scalabrine, Celtics analyst and co-host of the starting lineup on Sirius XM NBA Radio. Won a title in 2008 with the Celtics.